this is Carrie Canary Quilts, and we're on week 39 of the Dear Jane Quilt Along. We have a little bit of a milestone today. As you can see down on the bottom, we're going to be doing BR13, which completes the third outer row of this quilt. So that is, that's some progress. Let me tell you, this is a lot of progress. I am really happy with everything. But anyway, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you'll get notified of all the Dear Jane content, which I have a playlist on my YouTube channel for that, and all the other fun stuff we do here. Also, if you would like, you can share your quilt blocks, your Dear Jane quilt blocks on social media, hashtag Dear Jane QAL, and you can tag Canary Quilts, and I will share them on my channel. And we have a couple people who do that each week, and it's really fun to see their blocks come together. All right, I am using the EQ8 Dear Jane add-on. If you have the book, you might be able to get some ideas on how to modify blocks or how we're putting these together. The add-on gives you this color chart, and I like to use it, see what it's going to look like before we get started. So let me fill in my blocks for this week. We have A3 Hunter's Moon, and I am using Variation 2. And then we have D11, which is Snow Crystal. This one right there, D11. E8, which is Mama's Maze. I10, Iris's Medallion. Right here, I10, and then BR13 Argyle. And I gotta rotate it. So I am, this week, I'm using a variation on one of them, and I'm gonna be modifying two of these blocks so there's no Y seams. You don't have to do that, but if you're like me and you just have a difficult time with Y seams, then you might want to check out how I'm going to modify these. So let's get started on our blocks and take a look at them. Okay, my first block is A3 Hunter's Moon. I'm using Variation 2 because that's the applique variation. The other variations, these are pieced in. These petals are pieced in. And I don't have the dexterity personally to do that, so I chose Variation 2, which is the applique version. So you just need to print your templates here. You really only need one of these petals, and you can move them so they're on one page. So that one's going to be pretty simple to put together. Next block is D11 Snow Crystals, and that is this one. I am going to modify this block, so I'm going to pull up the original block and show you what I'm going to do so that I don't have all the Y seams. And it's an applique, so we'll need to print our applique. Anyway, there's Y seams here, so there's 4 of those, and then they're here, 4 of those. So what I'm going to do, I am going to create a square inside here and make it basically a 4 patch. So I'm going to go from this point to this point and do that all the way around. And then I am going to go from this center all the way down here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So what I've created now is 4 of these identical pieces, and then you've got a 4 patch out of that. So the next thing I want to do is I still have the Y seams here all the way around, so what I want to do is I just want to move this down here and make straight rows across the top and bottom. You could delete these and redraw lines, or you can just move them like this. I'm using the edit part up there. All right, so we now have our squares, 4 squares in the center, and we have these borders on the side and the top, I guess, if that's what you want to call them. Let's take a look at our foundation. And I don't know why EQ8 does this. The two bottom squares are fine. The two top are not like that. So I need to resection these. So I'm going to go over to the right where it says I want to section and number myself without EQ8's help. I'm going to do that and I'm going to hit start over. I'm going to group each square on its own. And you can see that I highlight it and then I hit group and it changes the color of it. It doesn't matter what order you go in. EQ8 should number it. Okay, there's my 4 squares in the middle, and then all of these out here need to be their own group. So you just click on it and group it. There we go. Let's look at the numbering. Yeah, it's grayed out. So EQ8. I want to start in the center, so I'm going to number that 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to do each one that way. There we go. They're all built exactly the same. And then we need to come out here and do this. I'm not typing in letters. They already put letters in there, letters and numbers. I'm just kind of renumbering them myself. And you can see in the squares in the center that that's where I want to start. All right, there we go. Let's preview this. And look at that. We have 4 squares in the middle and our little borders on the side. All right, so you need to print that if you're going to modify it. And then you would also need to print your templates for the applique. And it is H, this one. We need this template right there so you can delete all these and just print that out. So there you go. That's how I'm modifying D11 Snow Crystal. Okay, next block is Mama's Maze. And no modifications here. Let's take a look at the foundation paper piece. And there's a lot of sections, but they're straight sections. This won't be hard at all. There's just a lot of them, but not hard at all. All right. See, that's what it looks like if you when you print it out. So let's go on to the next one. This one will just take a little bit of time. I10 Iris's Medallion. I am going to modify this one. And this is what it looks like before we do anything. So what I want to do again, I mean, you can see here is Y seams. Here's weird Y seams, small pieces. I don't want to deal with that. I want to do exactly what I just did and create 4 squares again in the middle. So let's start there. Let's start here. Let's make our squares on the outside. And then I'm going to come right down the middle to make 4 identical squares. And then, again, I want to change these so that they aren't diagonal. So there we go. We have our square in the middle. We have our square in the middle here. Whoops, something happened to my line there. Must have deleted it. I don't know what happened. There we go. All right, here's our big square in the middle. Right here, which I've now made into 4 identical squares that we can put together. I've also made these little side rows, I guess if you want to call it, and then 2 of these up here. So I think that's going to be easier. You don't have to do it that way, but that's how I'm going to do it. Let's take a look at the foundation. Let's redo this. I want to start over. So I want to do these diamond shapes as their own groups. And then each side of the diamond will be its own group. So we can make a square out of these 3 sections. 6 same thing in the other 4 squares. And I'm just clicking on it and hitting group. All right, so there's all our sections for the center, and then out here we can just do these short sides as their own group, and then the long sides as their own group. Okay, let's take a look at what this looks like. There is going to be a lot of sections. I mean, 8 of these are going to be identical like this. 4 are going to be identical like these shapes right here. So just kind of got to move these around so they do fit. That will fit. Might need to rotate. There we go. There we go. Got it to fit. Oops, got to move that up. All right, that is I10 Iris Medallion, modified for no Y seams. Let me know if you're going to do that, or if you're just going to go ahead and put the Y seams together, which is great. There's no problem with that. It's just I'm working within my skill set. Okay, and then last is BR13 Argyle. That's what mine's going to look like. The sections for foundation. All right, so the Argyle section is made up of 4 different sections, and the rest is simple. So compared to the last 2 that we modified, this is not gonna be hard at all. All right, there we go. Blocks for week 39. Should be interesting. Let's see how it goes. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and let's get started on our blocks. All right, week 39. And we are starting off with another applique like we did last week. This is A3 Hunter's Moon variation 2, which is the applique variation. That's what I'm going to do because I am not good at this type of piecing. So, got to go with my skill set. And these are the templates. I have transferred them over to my fusible webbing, put them on my fabric. I need to get them cut out, and I'll show you how I'm going to put them on my background. All right, let's get started. All right, I got my pieces cut out. I do have them with the fusible webbing up at the moment because I wanted to lay it out and see if the way I wanted to do it is going to work, and I think it is. So I creased on the diagonal. And what I want to do is I want to bring these down to where these points hit the diagonal. So they should hit each other when that happens also. Also, these pieces have a little shallower curve on the top and a deeper curve on the bottom, and you want that deeper curve down here so that it forms what looks like a circle, hopefully, around here. So that's how I'm going to do it, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, that worked. I don't think my pieces are exactly the same, so it does have kind of a little bit of a lopsided feel. Hopefully when I applique around it, maybe it'll help it out a little bit, but hey, I'm going with it. Anyway, that is A3 Hunter's Moon, variation 2. All right, here's our next block, D11 Snow Crystal, and I did modify this so there are no Y seams, and if you want to see how I did that, you can go back to my EQ8 part of the video, which is earlier. I made it so there's only 4 squares here instead of Y seams all over the place. And this one has 2 different colors, so I went with like a blue for my diamonds. That's the same color as some of these dots that are in my teal. So let's see how that looks when it's done. My pieces, my cut pieces, which you can find on my website, and the link is in the description down below, so you don't have to figure all of these out yourself. These long pieces are the outer pieces right here. These medium-sized rectangles are on each side of the center square. These squares right here are the inside triangles. These dark squares are in the middle, and then these big squares are for these center triangles. And then I've got my applique all ready to be cut out. All right, let's just do one of these insides here and then we can put the whole thing together. I have put these strips onto these outer pieces, just tacked them down. And then these 3 pieces are exactly like this one. So I put them together. Takes a little bit of time, but they're not too hard. So here we go. We've got a dark square, and then number 2 and 3, we're going to use these white squares. 4 is this big square. 5 and 6 are these rectangles. So I'm going to take a dark and a light square and put them together. Our dark square is number 1, so I'm going to bring it over here. It's plenty big. I'm going to lay it over number 1 so that it's at least 1/4 of an inch over 2 and over 3. I'm going to sew right here with a lock stitch there between 1 and 2. There's my first 2 pieces. Let's turn it over and trim for 3. Now we can take our other white square. I'm just gonna line it up with my blue square underneath. And sew lock stitching here between 1 and 3. There's our first 3 pieces. So now we can put on the big dark piece after we trim it up. So that's going to be our big square. It is plenty big. I have it out beyond this quite a bit, these 2 seams. So now we can sew, and I'm going to lock stitch here and here. So I don't have to yank on the stitches as I'm trying to fold this over. So right here below E4. That is our big square for our big triangle. Now I'm going to trim for E5. And all we have left is our white rectangles, and E5 and E6 are going to go on exactly the same. So I'm going to get E5 on here. I'm going to lock stitch at this point and then sew right here between E4 and E5, and then when I do E6 I can go all the way through. Here's my pieces trimmed up. So the way I did it, you want to make sure that all your dark squares here meet in the center. So it's pretty easy to figure out how to put together. I'm going to put it together in rows, and I think I will just iron all my seams open, and then we can put the edges on. Oh, the edges, there's 2 short edges and 2 long edges. So once I get the center built, then we can put the short ones on. I'm going to iron towards the edge, and then we'll put the long edges on. So then I'll come back and we can do our applique. There is my block completed. I'm putting on my applique. You're just going to put a point right in between all these points. And there you go. Again, one of those blocks where I don't know if these are needed, but that's how she did it, so that's how I'm doing it. And that is D11. Snow Crystal, no Y seams. Let me know how you did it. Let me know if you did the Y seams or not. Next up, E8 Mama's Maze. That's what it's going to look like. And well, this is not going to be hard at all. These are all just 3 pieces. For the most part, 3 pieces in a row. This one's 5 pieces in a row. Gosh. I mean, I'll put this together, but I don't think this is going to be any problem if you've done any paper piecing up to this point. So my pieces are all these white squares, are all the white squares you see in here. These rectangles, white rectangles, are the white rectangles you see in here. Dark squares, obviously the dark squares in here. These shorter rectangles are these in here, and the longer ones are out there. And then the squares in the middle. So, yeah. I'll put one of these together. That won't take very long, and then we'll puzzle piece this together. And don't forget that all my cut pieces that I use are available on my website if you want to use them also, and that link is in the description down below this video. I got all these pieces done. They are not hard at all, especially when you're going from one end to the other usually. Single file. So these are done. And then this is the piece we're going to be doing. So I have my short dark rectangle, my long dark rectangle, and my 2 squares that I need. And I've got it drawn out. I forgot to write the numbers. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 1 is a white square and 2 is a dark rectangle. I'm going to put them together and just put them 1/4 of an inch over 1 and 2, plenty over this seam here and past the seam allowance over here. So we can sew here and lock stitch at that point between C1 and C2. There's the first 2 pieces. I have trimmed up for the 3rd, which is a white square. I'm just going to line it up with my other fabric, and just like between 1 and 2, I'm going to sew along here and lock stitch up at that point. There we go. First 3 pieces are down. Now we're just going to do the top long dark rectangle, and we'll get a piece that looks just like that one. So line it up, sew on the line. I'm going to get everything trimmed up, and let's see how this gets laid out. It'll be interesting. Okay, here's my pieces trimmed up, and this is how they get laid out. The 2 longest strips are on the outside here. This has 3 pieces, but it's 1 strip here. These are the pieces, one of these pieces is the one we put together, and this is the other one. And then to round out this center part, we want to put the strip that has the long dark center next to this, and then the shorter center next to that. So we need to put these 2 together. We need to put these 3 together, and then we can put the whole thing together. I think I am going to just put all of these together and iron towards the piece with the least amount of seams, like this piece or these pieces. See how that goes. But anyway, that's how it goes together. Just took some time. Lots of little sections. There we go. That's Mama's Maze. That really is not a hard, it looks hard. It is not a hard block to put together at all. We are on I10, no Y seams. I changed this so that I would not have all of these weird seams in here. And if you want to see how I did it, you can go back to the EQ8 portion in the front if you didn't watch it, to see how I got to this point. Yes, there are a lot of little sections, but I think I'd rather put those together than figure all of that out. So there's not many pieces here. I do have a cheat sheet of my cut pieces on my website if you want to use it. If you like the pieces that I cut and you don't have to figure it out. So you can find that link in the description down below this video, and you can grab my cut pieces. So I'm just going to leave it there. There's a lot going on here, so we have a whole bunch of the same type of sections here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the same section. 4 of these, 2 of these, and 2 of these, which they're the same. They just have different size pieces on the end. So it's just going to take a little bit of time. I don't know. Let's see. I'll put together one of these little ones, and I'll put together one of these. How's that? And then they'll all be the same after that. All right, let's get started. Okay, got all these pieces done. This is the piece that I'm going to demonstrate. That's what it's going to look like, and there's quite a few of these. And then there are these pieces, which are just 2 put together. And then 3 of these outer rows. And we've got the 2 long ones. And then I've got the short one I'm going to demonstrate over here. All right, so I've got them drawn out on the back. I've also got my pieces that I need. And this one is just 3 of the same size squares. Our number 1 is white. So I'm going to put my white on the bottom. Basically 2 is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to go to the edge of 2, and I'm plenty over 3. So I am going to sew on the line between 1 and 2 and lock stitch up here by 3. Then 1 and 2 are going to be these 2 squares, and 1 is the white. So I'm going to just kind of center my white. Yep. And put it 1/4 of an inch over on 2. And then you need to sew in between these right here, and I'm going to lock stitch at these 2 points. I got my first 2 pieces on, and I have trimmed both sides of this and here. So let's start with this one. Just need one of these little squares, center it. Let's see, here's my seam allowance, and it goes up to there. So you can see I have plenty of room there. These are plenty big too. I'm just going to center these. It's off the paper. There's my seam allowance, and I'm going to put both of these on when I'm over at the machine. So now we can just sew on these lines, and I'm going to get everything trimmed up and see how this goes together. I got all my pieces cut. What we want to do is we want to make, just like in the last block we did, or 2 blocks ago I guess it was, we want to make 4 squares that go on the inside that we're going to put together. And to make those 4 squares, we need to put these 3 pieces together like this. So what we can do is just layer all 4 like this. So we can put them all together exactly the same. So that's how they're going to go together. All these pieces will go together to make 4 squares. So we want to looks like line up these notches at the top. And then you have just a tiny little tail down here. So we're going to sew on that line, and let's iron away from this center piece so we don't have a lot sitting at that point. There's my 4 center squares. Now I'm going to put them together in rows like this. I think I will iron them open. Then I'll put these 2 rows together, iron it open, and then we'll be ready for these pieces. There we go. Center's done. Let's see. We want to put these short edges on opposite ends, and we want to line up our seams right here. And I'm going to iron towards the outside row, and then I'm going to repeat for these rows on the other 2 sides and iron towards these rows, and then our little block will be done. There we go. I10, no Y seams. Yes, I have a little bit of wonkiness in here. When this is stuck in with 169 other blocks, I don't know that you'll see it that much, but I just don't know that I could have done it the other way. So let me know how you did it. If you did Y seams, or if you did something like this, where you did no Y seams. And just like that, we're on the bottom row, number 13. We will be completing our bottom row with this block. And the nice thing about this block is it's not going to be that hard. Here's my pieces. So this big piece here is going to go down there. I believe this piece is going to go here. This piece will go in there. And then all these will be the other diamonds. These long white strips are there. These long strips are here. And the rest of these go in here. These little squares. So I have my cut pieces, if you like what you see, available on my website. And the link is down below in the description. Let's put together this one, and let's put together this one. Those won't take too long to do. All right, looking forward to it after that last block, not having a hard one. I have attached my pieces to my fabrics here just by tacking them down. And then I've done these pieces here. They weren't difficult at all, just 3 pieces. Same with these. So I've got this one and I've got this one. These are the pieces I need for this one. These are the pieces I need for this one. This one is going to start with an E1, which is a white. So I'm going to take it and put it 1/4 of an inch over the line. And then I'm going to lay my green down. And right there is my seam allowance. So I'm going to put the corner of my green piece right there on the seam allowance. And now we can just sew on the line between E1 and E2. For this one, what I want to do is tack down my green piece. So I put a little stitch there, and I need to trim for my number 2. And that's what these are for. So I'm just going to line this one especially is very long. And I can sew right here, and I'm going to lock stitch at that point. These are my first 2 pieces on here. I need to trim for my 3rd pieces. There's that one. And I need to trim here for this one. All right, for this piece, my seam allowances are right here. So my corners of my white piece are on both sides of it, so that one's good. And then this one is way long enough. It's off the paper on both sides. So I'm going to get these sewn down, and I'm going to get everything trimmed up, and we'll lay this puppy out. Here's how we lay this out. So down here, I mean, everything else is pretty much, you can figure out where it goes. I have H on the left and G on the right. And then here I have section B, C, D, and E. This will create our Argyle. So we need to put these 4 together first, and then we can put this on top of this and the bottom on top of here, and then we'll be able to put the sides on, and then we can put the top on. So I'm just going to do my best here to match up notched edges, and I will probably iron these open, and then I'm going to iron towards these pieces right here, iron towards these when I get them on, and then iron towards the top when I'm done. So there you go. Let's see how it goes. There's my Argyle. So now I'm going to put these 2 pieces on, the top and the bottom. And then, but it should be good to go after that. Put these 2 on and then add the top. There we go. That was pretty easy to put together. BR13 Argyle, and that will end out our bottom row. That is exciting. Whew, we are making some progress. It is so fun. It is so rewarding. Getting some beautiful blocks and learning a lot of stuff along the way. There we go. Week 39 is done. We're going to fill in our bottom row, and then we have the left side and the corners and a few center blocks left to do. So what did you think of this week? We started off easy again with an applique. I modified a block for no Y seams and another block for no Y seams. Let me know if you did that. You certainly don't have to, but like I said, working inside my skill set. And then Argyle is beautiful. That is a pretty block. So I'm using the Dear Jane add-on for EQ8, and you can populate a photo quilt in this chart, which I think is pretty cool. I'm doing a color chart and I'm doing a photo chart. And I like to do that at the end after I complete my block. So let's do it. We have A3 Hunter's Moon Variation 2 and D11 Snow Crystals, no Y seams, and E8 Mama's Maze. We have I10 Iris's Medallion, no Y seams, and BR13. Look at that. We have filled in that bottom row. It's so exciting. This is so fun. It is difficult. It's taking a long time, but it is going to be well worth it in the end. So I am so proud of you at no matter what pace you're going. And I'm proud of myself. So hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to see the Dear Jane and any other content I've got here. And I will see you in the next week. Bye.